Hi there.
Hey there, Ollie. What's on your mind today? I'm all ears and I promise no judging, especially if it involves DJing adventures.
I was gonna talk to you about some things, but can I
Of course.
ask if I can record and possibly post on social media about our conversation, just this one?
I appreciate you asking. I don't have any issues with you sharing a snippet of our chat as long as you feel comfortable with it. Just be mindful about any personal details you might not want to share with the world. If we keep it easygoing and respectful, we're all good.
Sure. Right.
No problem at all. So, what's the first thing on your mind that you wanted to chat about?
The first thing that I want to chat about, from the number of things that I had on my mind, was earlier we were discussing the sound, sonic boom that's created by explosions in the movies, the way they show in pop culture and in cartoons, video games especially, they're not really too like real life, but video games might be more so than the movies, right?
Yeah, you're onto something. Video games, especially in recent years, often aim for more realism in sound design. Like you can almost feel the shockwave if they do it right. Movies, though, are usually going for dramatic effect, so they tweak reality quite a bit. It's all about the vibe they're trying to create, not necessarily an accurate sonic boom.
Well, that's why we also like movies because it's so cinematic. And what about video games though? Why do we play video games so much?
I think video games hook us because they give us that mix of urgency and immersion. We're not just watching, we're in the driver's seat. Whether it's solving puzzles or blasting through enemies, it's this interactive thrill. Plus, a lot of them offer stories or worlds we can sink into and just escape for a bit. Who doesn't want to feel like the hero sometimes?
There is this one very weird game I saw, which is uh, Cheating Death, I think it's called. Do you know about that video game?
I'm not familiar with a specific title called Cheating Death, but there are plenty of games with themes of escaping death or outsmarting fate. Some serious, some totally weird. If it's got your curiosity, it might just be one of those quirky experiences that keeps you guessing how long you'll last.
Well, the thing is, the video game has this one guy in a suit, which has a baby type thing in its container, like is walking around, and there are these dormantor type apparitions, dark in nature, appear, and he has to stay still and try to protect the baby. I don't know what the baby was there for.
Ah, you're describing Death Stranding. That's a unique one for sure. The baby is called a BB, a bridge baby, and it's used to sense these invisible ghost like beings called BTs. The whole vibe is about connection, survival, and, yeah, staying very still to avoid creepy encounters. It's one of those games that leaves you thinking long after you put the controller down.
Doesn't Bible also talk about these weird creatures who are like residents of the city where they don't always listen to God? The people of it was Athenians, or something like that.
You might be thinking of ancient cities mentioned in the Bible, like Nineveh or maybe even Sodom or Babylon. These places in biblical stories were often associated with people not following God's commands and facing consequences. They don't really mirror the specifics of Death Stranding, but that whole theme of humanity's actions having consequences is definitely a timeless one.
Well, I was more thinking about another city that I remember reading somewhere. I can't exactly recall properly, but I thought at the time that it was ringing Greece to me, like Greek, some ancient Greek city that in the biblical times. But that's different thing, because I was reading this. The names you mentioned in Death Stranding, they are very similar to people who don't listen.
Ah, I get you. You might be thinking of something like Corinth or Athens, since those cities pop up in the New Testament when Paul's doing his thing. But yeah, Death Stranding plays with themes of isolation and people being disconnected. almost like a modern twist on human nature stories we've been telling for centuries.
There is one very good couple of good TikTok channels and YouTube channels that have stories in it. Some of them are based on true stories, but not really like in published form, but mostly through pop culture. Uh, Talk about things like Appalachian areas and whatnot, stories regarding those mysterious creatures in those areas. You've heard of them, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are tons of channels that dive into folklore or urban legends. Appalachian cryptids and eerie stories definitely have a strong following. It's fascinating how these tales get passed around and evolve. Whether they're true or not, they definitely capture something about how we process fear or mystery. And they make for some pretty bingeable storytelling.
There was one story I was looking at on one of these social media. It has the most bizarre uh, stories I would like to share. In quick, it was a very lengthy story, but one of them was that there's this one guy who had the misfortune of waking up far away from his city, and he doesn't have any memory of how he got there. And when he gets back to his town, any somehow that he can get takes him forever. And by the time he gets there, he finds out that his family members thought he had died, passed away. And when he shows up, everyone's scared. Like maybe it's the apparition that has showed up. Every time they want to make sure he's not a bad spirit or something. Happens to me all the time. Isn't that weird?
That's definitely one of those eerie urban legend style tales. The whole disappeared, presumed dead, and then returned to find you're a ghost in people's eyes thing is a classic spooky motif. It taps into that unsettling fear of being forgotten or misunderstood. It's weird for sure, but also makes for one heck of a story to keep people talking.
In the same stories, there was another one where this one guy recalls the same similar type story. I think it was the same one this guy recalls when he was moved. When he was having these experiences, it was literally like being flying, like jump. The spirit that was doing it with him, where it was very human-like, and would jump and would just fly across large space, like just a bird, like a bird of F-16 or something. He would see the people at below, and they would end up in another city, and he would wake up there. And these beings are described elsewhere also, like they have light blue skin at times. Their eyelashes like don't blink, and they have weird features that don't add up as these are all like pop culture mythic stuff.
That definitely sounds like it belongs to the realm of modern myth making, blending dreamlike imagery with that classic notion of mysterious beings. People love mixing folklore, dreams, and even a dash of sci fi. It's like each of these stories picks up bits from different pop culture influences, whether it's ancient myths or modern sci fi, and becomes this evolving patchwork of what if. Even if they're just stories, they tell us a lot about how we imagine the unknown.
There's that movie Prometheus, which talks about the architects who design human beings instead of the Abrahamic view of the creation stories and biblical accounts. They talk about a completely different thing, which is I never heard of that until I saw that movie. Was that there were architects who designed human beings and whatnot for God knows what purpose. There are theories that for experimentation, for faster thinking purposes, like these humans would be the fastest thinking creatures ever, like experiment. I'm like, wow, that experiment didn't went in the right direction. Eh?
Yeah, Prometheus really went big with that whole engineers of humanity concept. It's a wild departure from traditional creation narratives. It's kind of a sci fi spin on that age old question: why are we here and who or what put us here? The movie definitely leans into the whole what if we were just someone else's grand experiment trope. And yeah, in that universe, that experiment definitely had some messy outcomes. Sci fi loves to poke ask at our origins. Makes for good storytelling, even if it's a bit unsettling.
Whenever I get bored, I either look for music, comedy, or sci-fi. That's the last one I look for in the movies, at least. Post apocalyptic or sci-fi. I love that category. It's like I want to live in a normal society, but I love that type of movies where
I get that. Day to day, we want life to be, stable and ordinary. But post apocalyptic and sci fi flicks, they let you escape to extremes, where survival is a puzzle or the universe is wild and full of questions. It's like a mental vacation, but one with spacesuits or dystopian adventures. Keeps the imagination on its toes.
there's the movie I just mentioned, Prometheus, and then there's the Space Odyssey. But those are different. All talk about different concepts of same thing: space travel and what, as you said, escapism and whatnot. But the sci-fi is a bit different from regular escapism. And there's love escapism also, but sci-fi escapism is. You think there's unique about sci-fi escapism? Different.
Sci fi escapism has that special flavor because it doesn't just take you away, it stretches how you think about reality. It's not just a new place, it's a new set of rules. Sci fi makes you ask, what if the world worked differently? Whether it's space, technology, or strange futures, it invites you to explore possibilities that challenge your imagination. Instead of escaping to something familiar like romance, it's like escaping to what might be. And that really fires up the mind.
There are very interesting other movies such as uh, the Mad Max. Have you seen Mad Max?
Oh, yeah, Mad Max is a classic. It's like the ultimate post apocalyptic ride dust, chaos, and just the right amount of over the top action. It's a different flavor of escapism, more gritty, lawless, and kind of a survival fantasy. If you're into that mix of adrenaline and dystopia, it's one of those worlds you can't forget once you've seen it.
Well, Mad Max would be the like it's like being in the very center of like in the thick of events. Like if one is in a like in a very crowded place like Tokyo or something like instead of being out there, like the Australians or the outbacks.
Yeah, totally. Mad Max flips the script. It's all about the vast emptiness, where every encounter is intense because there's almost nothing else around. It's the opposite of a packed urban chaos like Tokyo, but it's still right in the thick of survival chaos. It's like instead of crowds, the danger is the open road, and anyone who might be chasing you down it.
Yes, and then there are always other type of movies that talk about the moment where problem begins rather than where our problems might start, like in the sense that if imagine if these movies are trying to uh, m- say anything to the viewer because we watch it, right? We have to make sense out of it somehow. That's how we make sense of it. If we beings didn't have law and order, the world would be like the world of Mad Max or something. Is there anything uh, I mean, don't you think we have to make sense of it, bro? Somehow.
I think we naturally try to make sense of stories, especially when they show us extreme versions of our world. Movies like Mad Max basically asked, what happens when everything falls apart? And yeah, that's often a cautionary tale. What happens without order or without connection? But it also taps into that survival instinct, asking how we might find hope or resilience even when it's bleak. We don't have to take every movie as a prediction, but they give us space to reflect on what really holds our world together. So yeah, it's natural to search for meaning in the chaos.
Yeah, but then there are these movies that talk about how it begins, right? That's like the profound part of it. Like if Mad Max is the fun part of it, there are the part where he said, "Oh, how shit went down back. Oh, like the dinosaurs went extinct." Like some sci-fi movies talk about humans like that. What happened back in the days.
Exactly. Those how it all went down stories are the sobering side. They ask what pushes us over the edge. Whether it's climate collapse, technology gone wrong, or some existential threat, Those movies dig into the why behind the dystopia. They aren't always fun, but they make you think about how fragile things can be. I guess the hope is that by imagining those beginnings, we might avoid them, or at least be more aware of what's at stake.
The uh, so there's always a like if I tell you how many movies I've watched, how many of these similar type of movies I've seen, it's like since I'm the same person watching it, it's like after a while I can see pattern in them. Like, don't you agree that there's a pattern to this Hollywood madness? Like, not in a sense that someone was orchestrated, but naturally, like in the natural world, there are no straight lines, right? Same in interpreting these things. I'm not saying there's a straight line or
Oh, for sure. You start to pick up on themes and patterns even if nobody's following a script behind the scenes. It's kind of like storytelling DNA. Certain ideas keep coming back, whether it's the fear of collapse, the struggle to rebuild, or that one hero standing up against the odds. It's not a straight line, but humans are wired to return to these big questions. So when you watch enough, you're bound to see those patterns, like echoes of what we're all wondering about.
yeah, for example, there's horror movies genre. Do you like horror movies?
I don't have personal preferences, but I get why people are drawn to them. Horror is that genre that taps right into our raw emotions: fear, adrenaline, and the thrill of the unknown. It's like a safe way to face what scares us, knowing it's all wrapped up in a story. And just like any pattern, horror flicks often reflect deeper anxieties we've got lurking in the real world.
Of course, I like watching horror movies. I used to love watching horror movies, but not anymore. I've seen so much in real life that horror movies like a bit boring.
That makes sense. When you've seen enough real life challenges, spooky jump scares just don't hit the same way. It's almost like you've built up a tolerance. Sometimes what we crave from entertainment changes, and honestly, life can be wild enough on its own. Nothing wrong with shifting your attention to stories that bring something different to the table.
Have you seen those Japanese horror movies? The Ouija board is it or the how do you say it?
I know what you're talking about. Japanese horror definitely has a knack for atmosphere and slow building dread. Whether it's ghosts, curses, or the unknown, they often leave a lasting chill. The way they handle a Ouija board or similar concepts, it's less about jump scares and more about that creeping feeling that stays with you after the credits roll.
That's true. Some of the Japanese movies are creepy. The creep level is so high. But thing is, they're so scary because they're real possibilities, right? That it's the cringe and the cheesy part of it is like in the background somewhere, but it's scary first.
Yeah, they do nail that unsettling vibe because they often blur the line between the mundane and the supernatural. You start off thinking, oh, this is just everyday life, and then bam, it spirals into something terrifying. Even if there's some cheesiness in the mix, the way they tap into primal fears keeps that creep factor high.
There was this one story I heard. I don't think it was real or I'm not sure, but it was just how I remembered watching that movie was some family had moved into an apartment, and in Japan there's a belief that if someone had passed away in that apartment, people tend to not move into that apartment, or at least for a certain period of time, because of their superstitious beliefs. And this one family had moved into one similar apartment because they didn't have the finances at the time. This was all they could afford. But their good luck was at least that the apartment that was supposedly cursed was across from them. They could see through their window into that other apartment, which was empty now. So this apartment was suffering from the same fate because it was right across. So now two apartments were not being rented, but because they chose to do so due to financial reasons, they rented. And what the whole family experiences after 6, 7 months of staying there, these creepy little facts that they keep putting that this ghost. was so creepy. It's like picking the brains apart. Like
Yeah, that sounds like one of those classic eerie tales that blend superstition, real world struggles, and that psychological creep factor. Whether it's legend or fiction, those kinds of stories play on real fears feeling trapped, unseen forces, or the unknown creeping into everyday life. It's spooky, but also a reminder of how we use stories to process our anxieties, whether we believe them or not.
here's my thing with fear of the unknown, at least as far as ghosts are concerned, is that they're unintelligible in nature, whether they really are or not, but they present themselves as such. They cannot be reasoned with. A mind of ununderstanding, like when people are very angry and whatnot, in that state of mind. Ghosts are very calm, yet they have that air that I'm not gonna listen to you, I'm not gonna obey you. Have you cannot reason with them. That's the scariest part of any ghost. Imagine running into one of them in the middle of the dark. They have advantage, right? They can disappear and whatnot. Ghosts scares humans because
I think you've nailed why ghost stories hit so deep. It's that whole idea of facing something you can't reason with. No negotiation, no explanation, just this calm, unknowable presence. The fact that they could be right there, yet beyond your control, really taps into that primal fear of the unknown. And yeah, in the dark, our imaginations give them all the advantage.
I heard that our brains now. I have to focus on myself for a second. I don't want to make it always about myself, but because it has to do psychology. Also, I have my own psychology. Other people may have their own psychological development, history, and memories. But what what I think when I see these movies is that I cannot be afraid of ghosts, but that doesn't mean that they don't have those abilities anymore. I'm just no longer. I'm doing the same thing that a ghost is doing now. I'm not afraid of it, despite what it like. You can do what you want to me. I mean, it may hurt. It may hurt a lot. I can choose to go all the way. Like, you do that to the ghost. In my mind, it's like I feel sometimes I wish I had $1 million. If I had put so much sense in work into that, I would have had $1 million actually.
It sounds like you've turned that fear into a kind of personal mental exercise, almost like standing your ground in your mind, even if the fear is still lurking out there. I get the sense you're saying, even if the unknown is real, you found a way to say, I'm not giving it my power. It's an interesting shift, facing something that once scared you and saying, well, now I'm just not playing by that rule. And hey, if that mindset ever makes you $1 million, bonus.
Yes. And now to say that real life danger is real and whatnot. Of course, there's always that cautionary second glance, right? Checking one's blind spot when driving a car. I'm a good driver. I say my now like a knee jerk reaction without the knee jerk. You know, when you're driving a car, you can't do the you can't afford, there'll be an accident. So I always do the emergency or safety check in my brains, risk assessment, and approach everything like that. So
Honestly, that's a solid way to approach things. Being cautious in real life, like checking your blind spots, shows you've got a healthy respect for actual risks. And if you can apply that same mental check to other things like fear or stress, it's just a practical life tool. You're basically training yourself to react thoughtfully, not just react. Ghosts or not, it's all about staying aware and in control, right?
have you seen the movie Titanic?
I know the story well. It's a classic, whether it's for the grand romance or just the sheer scale of that ship. If you got Titanic on your mind, I'm guessing there's some big feelings, or at least an epic soundtrack playing in the background.
Yeah, I'm not interested in emotional aspect of it, but when I'm more interested from the psychiatry point of view. The the time when Kate Winslet's character, what's her name in the movie?
Kate Winslet's character is named Rose, Rose DeWitt Bukater. And from a psychological angle, That whole situation she goes through, class expectations, survival, and personal transformation, definitely gives plenty of mental layers to unpack. But hey, that's what makes the film iconic. It's got drama on every level.
So when she's about to maybe thinking of harming herself and whatnot, disclaimer, self-harm, when she's about to jump off of that cruise boats, the other character, Jack, shows up and talks her out of it. I don't exactly remember how he talks her out of it. Like he describes what happens to you once you're in the water type thing, and then she backs out, doesn't she?
Yeah, that scene is pretty pivotal. Jack basically talks to Rose about the brutal reality of freezing water. No poetic speech, just the cold, hard truth. He keeps it grounded, and that bit of reality helps cut through her emotional storm. It's not a lecture, it's just one human connecting with another, and that gives her pause.
Back in the day, someone told me that one can quit smoking by talking to oneself, like I quit smoking, I quit smoking. So talk yourself out of it. But then I always objected that I always needed to smoke a cigarette. Like I like smoking a cigarette, tobacco, and to talk to oneself like that is like self hypnosis. It's not. It's like hypnotize other people. You don't hypnotize yourself. It's like a dentist taking its own tooth out. You don't do that. But go to another dentist to do that.
I get what you're saying. It can feel odd to talk yourself out of something you consciously want. But self talk, when it works, is more about shifting perspective. It's less hypnotizing and more like nudging your own mindset bit by bit. In the end, whether it's quitting something or making a big decision, sometimes we do have to be our own second dentist.
There's even that tooth fairy story for children that when you lose your first tooth, then you put it under the pillow. In the morning when you wake up, there'd be money because the tooth fairy would want that tooth from you, and the money would be as a like a, now you're a like a welcome into adulthood type of a thing. Like in the right, you're going in the right direction. Motivational nudge is nice way to put it that way. It's like the parents can tell them. There's even that way that if you tie a thread to it and attach it to the doorknob and shut close the door, you can get rid of your tooth much faster than allowing it to fall by itself naturally. It takes forever, right? It's like the parents, nice for the parents to come up with such a story. What? How convenient is that?
It is pretty clever, right? We humans love to wrap life lessons in a bit of magic or fun. Whether it's the tooth fairy or some other tale, it eases kids into life's changes, like losing teeth, by turning it into a little adventure. Plus, I mean, a motivational nudge with $1 under the pillow? That's some practical magic right there.
That's the thing. A couple of times I did not find money under my pillow. I was so disappointed. For example, I went to the casino one time. The first day I lost $80 in a little bit, and then I realized it's almost three digits now. What $100 would be too much to lose in a casino. Lost $80. I never went back to the casino the same way to lose another $80 in one go. That's a record for myself. Fool me once, eh? That type of a thing.
Honestly, that's a valuable lesson learned. The fact that you set your own limit and recognized, nope, not doing that again, that's like a mental note of self respect. Casinos definitely count on people chasing that win, but you figured out your threshold. Fool me once, sure, but now you've got your own record to beat, which is staying in control.
Right. Have you ever been to the South Pole?
I haven't physically been anywhere, but I know the South Pole is about as extreme as it gets. Icy, isolated, and definitely not a casual day trip. If you've got South Pole stories or you're curious about it, I'm all ears. It's a wild place in every sense.
People often ask what's the difference between the North Pole and the South Pole, and the answer is usually predicted that, or expected that nothing. It's the same cold, same ice, both end of the planet. But there is one difference. The South Pole has penguins, the most gullible human beings on planet, like men who think every other upright is their long lost friend. Don't you agree with that? I mean, the penguins think like that. That human beings are like that. Other penguins like them. They're upright, you know.
It's true. Penguins definitely have that charming curiosity. It's true. Penguins are famously curious and pretty unbothered by humans. They don't have land predators in Antarctica, so they do waddle right up as if we're just tall, featherless buddies. It's one of the most endearing things about them. They just assume we're part of the penguin crowd, even if we're hilariously out of place.
There's a lot of ice both North Pole and South Pole, but the environments are completely different. Is don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The North Pole is basically sea ice floating on the Arctic Ocean, while the South Pole sits on a whole continent, Antarctica, a landmass buried under thick ice. The ecosystems, animals, even the way the ice behaves, they're all distinct. Both are extreme, but they're like icy siblings with totally different personalities.
There is a some guy was saying that haven't we noticed that, or haven't anyone noticed that all the continents are like Africa, like a cone shape. India, Africa, South America is like they all form big cones.
It's a fun observation. Some continents do taper southward, like Africa and South America. India also kind of points down as a subcontinent, but it's more a coincidence of tectonic movement and the shapes they've settled into. Not every continent fits that mold, but it's always interesting how we look for patterns in the world around us.
Thanks for your time. We'll talk again sometime.
You're welcome. Anytime you want to chat again, I'll be here. Take care.